Hello, my name is Linda, and I'm a 38-year-old reflecting on a particularly challenging chapter of my life. This phase began when I made the tough decision to end my marriage to Ethan. The realization hit that we simply weren't well matched. Ethan's juvenile behavior and lack of responsibility were overwhelming, making the thought of a lifelong commitment unbearable. Moreover, the situation was exacerbated by his mother, Kathleen, who from the outset expressed her disapproval of me, which only added to the strain. Her constant negative remarks chipped away at my self-esteem and left me feeling out of place in my marriage. Ethan's immaturity and Kathleen's interference were frequent sources of conflict. Evenings that should have been peaceful often ended up as reminders of our strained relationship, with Ethan typically absorbed in video games, neglecting both me and our household duties. Whenever I attempted to address our issues, Ethan dismissed my concerns, trivializing them as overreactions. For instance, he forgot our anniversary, and when I brought it up, he downplayed its significance, suggesting we could celebrate another time. His nonchalant attitude extended to financial matters as well, resisting any conversation about budgeting or planning for the future, with a carefree insistence on living for the moment. Family gatherings were no respite, as Kathleen seized every opportunity to belittle me, making disparaging comments about everything from my job to my appearance. All these elements, Ethan's irresponsibility, Kathleen's hostility, and the overall disregard for my feelings, signaled the breakdown of our marriage. My concerns were consistently ignored, and my emotional needs were sidelined, highlighting the stark issues rooted in immaturity and apathy within our relationship. My time with Ethan was marked by the challenging dynamics with his mother, who seemed to derive pleasure from making me uneasy, a sentiment Ethan often ignored due to his hesitance to confront her. Here are some detailed incidents that paint a clearer picture of the situation. First instance, during a dinner I had painstakingly prepared, I expressed hope that she would enjoy the meal. Kathleen skeptically remarked, "Let's see if it's even good. I'm not quite convinced by your cooking skills." Second instance, I was excited about a dress I picked for an event, believing it would look great on me. Kathleen, however, dismissed it, saying, "Oh dear, that dress is far too bold for your age. You don't want to appear foolish, do you?" Third instance, when I urged Kathleen not to judge my parenting choices, she bluntly replied, "Clearly, you don't know best, or you wouldn't make such absurd choices. What's wrong with you?" Instance, I shared my efforts to maintain a healthy lifestyle, hoping for her support. Instead, Kathleen belittled me. "Oh, please, all that effort won't make a difference. You'll never match up to how I look." Fifth instance, after repeatedly asking Kathleen to refrain from speaking ill of me to others, she responded, "I'm just being honest, dear. People ought to know what you're really like." These interactions underscore how Kathleen consistently undermined and belittled me, contributing significantly to the strain and unhappiness in my marriage with Ethan. Eventually, I realized I deserved better than this relentless negativity and opted for divorce to escape the ongoing emotional turmoil. The courtroom proceedings were an ordeal where I had to justify my decision to the judge, explaining the personal toll of the marriage. Once the divorce was finalized, I felt a sense of relief, like a burden had been lifted. However, Kathleen's reaction in court was telling. She couldn't conceal her joy, exclaiming how she had won her son back, which deepened my resolve that leaving was the right decision, despite her apparent satisfaction at my distress. At the end of my marriage, I couldn't contain my frustration. I confronted Kathleen openly, calling her out for her mean-spirited and spiteful nature. Yet, instead of showing any sign of remorse, Kathleen simply laughed. Her laughter echoed through the courtroom, intensifying the pain of closing that difficult chapter of my life. It was a stark reminder of how some people revel in the misfortune of others. Her joy, however, only fueled my resolve to move beyond the toxic environment I had been trapped in. As I walked out of the courtroom, I decided to reclaim my life and seek the happiness I truly deserved. Kathleen's mocking laughter lingered in my mind, reinforcing the battles I had endured and the inner strength I had cultivated. I refused to let the harsh judgments and cruelty of others define me any longer. I was ready to rise above the negativity and embrace the new freedom that awaited me. With each step, I embarked on a journey of healing and self-discovery. The road ahead was not straightforward, but I faced it with resolve. I knew finding joy wouldn't be simple, but I had grown significantly stronger from my experiences. It was time to leave the drama and pain behind and look forward to a future filled with hope and self-love. However, my story doesn't end there. Trouble seemed to have a way of following me. Recall Kathleen's smug satisfaction in court, thinking she had triumphed. She assumed she would gain something significant from it, but she was mistaken. Unbeknownst to her, I possessed something she had coveted for years, a stunning sapphire lotus pendant, a family heirloom of immense beauty and value, worth millions. Kathleen had always eyed it with greed, but what she didn't realize was that I held the key to her so-called dreams. Her eyes might have sparkled with avarice, but she would never lay her hands on the necklace. Throughout my marriage to Ethan, Kathleen had often hinted at selling a family heirloom necklace, citing practical reasons. Despite her persistence, I steadfastly refused, emphasizing its sentimental significance and value to my family. Even after the divorce, Kathleen harbored a belief that she deserved half its worth, seeing it as a means to satisfy her materialistic cravings. Little did she know I had already made plans for it. A month had passed since the divorce when, unexpectedly, I heard a knock that sounded all too familiar. Opening the door, I found Kathleen standing there, her eyes brimming with tears, visibly shaken. Despite my reservations, a mix of curiosity and pity led me to invite her in from the cold. We settled into the living room, and I prompted her to share what was troubling her. Between sobs, Kathleen confessed, "My plan, it's all gone wrong. I thought I'd get what I wanted, but it's turned into a disaster." Skeptical yet intrigued, I asked her to elaborate. Taking a moment to compose herself, Kathleen explained that she had anticipated Ethan would secure half the value of the necklace following their divorce, fulfilling her long-held desires. But as she revealed her woes, she disclosed a twist that had upended her schemes. Leaning in, I urged her to continue. Through her regret and surprise, she said, "Ethan told me he'd forgotten to mention a prenup agreement he signed before we got married. It stated that the heirloom and all your money were protected. I never stood a chance." I couldn't help but laugh, a mix of relief and vindication washing over me. "Kathleen, I've been waiting for this moment. I always knew your schemes would backfire." As realization dawned on her, Kathleen's face flushed with embarrassment and a flicker of anger. "You knew all along?" she accused. Indeed, I had been prepared, but seeing her reaction at that moment confirmed that moving on from that toxic chapter was the best decision I had ever made. As she left, the weight of her failed plans was evident, and I closed the door on that saga, ready to look forward to a future of peace and self-reliance. As I leaned back in my chair, a triumphant smile crossed my face. Kathleen stood before me, grappling with the realization of her failed plans. "Oh, Kathleen," I began gently, "I didn't convince you of anything. You saw only what you wanted to because you were so fixated on your desires." Kathleen's tears morphed into a mix of frustration and regret as she confronted the reality of her actions. She had taken a risk, and it had backfired, leaving her with nothing but the sting of defeat. "I can't believe you had a prenup, Linda. I was hoping to get some of your money after the divorce," she admitted. "This wasn't about being a good wife, Kathleen. It was about protecting myself and my assets from anyone who might try to take them. People like you. I was just smart enough to secure my future," I responded calmly. Kathleen's expression shifted to one of reluctant understanding mixed with anger and resignation. "Heartless! How could you call me heartless?" she retorted. I looked at her squarely, the weight of her manipulative behavior reflecting back at her. Heartless? Look at how you treated me during my marriage. You were mean, cruel, and always trying to control everything. As Kathleen stormed out, the room fell into silence, the weight of her foiled scheme fully dawning on her. It was clear that her greed and deceit had led to her downfall, leaving her with nothing. I remained resolute, strengthened by the knowledge that I had stood up for myself, safeguarding my future against her calculated manipulations. I had come to understand that trust and love should never blind me to betrayal. As Kathleen tried to regain her composure, her eyes shot me a glare tinged with anger and resignation. The air was thick with the bitterness of her choices when she muttered, "Heartless." I couldn't let that accusation go unchallenged. "You call me heartless, Kathleen? Look at how you treated me during my marriage to Ethan. You were consistently mean, cruel, and domineering," I countered firmly. "I never treated you badly," Kathleen snapped back, a sharp edge to her voice. "You're exaggerating, Linda." "Really? Shall I remind you how you purposefully left me out of family gatherings, belittled my achievements, and spread rumors about me? You seemed to take pleasure in my discomfort," I replied, the memories vivid in my mind. "I did no such thing. You're just trying to make me the villain," she retorted, her frustration mounting. "Stop denying it, Kathleen. I've had enough of your lies and manipulations. Please leave my house," I demanded, my patience fraying. "Linda, please, just give me some money. I really need it," Kathleen pleaded, her voice desperate. "I'll give you 1 minute to leave or I'll call the police. This is your final warning," I said sternly. "You can't do this to me, Linda. We're family. Family should be kind to each other," Kathleen argued, her anger flaring. "Goodbye, Kathleen," I said firmly, unyielding. As Kathleen walked toward the door, the tension in the air was palpable. She gave me one last look before exiting, stepping into an uncertain future and facing the repercussions of her actions. I stood tall, feeling a mix of relief and liberation. I had severed ties with something profoundly toxic and reclaimed control of my life. The next day brought another challenge from my past. Ethan appeared, his demeanor troubled. "What do you want, Ethan?" I asked, my voice cold and unwelcoming. "Linda, I need your help. I'm in a tough spot right now," Ethan admitted, his voice carrying a hint of desperation. As Ethan's voice reached out to me over the phone, I could sense the desperation in his tone. But before he could continue, I cut him off. "Forget it, Ethan. I don't want to hear your excuses. You had the nerve to call me instead of facing me in person. How cowardly can you get?" My patience was already thin. "I thought this approach would be better," Ethan stammered, trying to keep the conversation going. "Please, just listen to me." "All right, Ethan, go ahead. Explain to me how you always put down my goals, laughed at my dreams, and made me feel inadequate. Do you even remember doing any of that?" I confronted him directly. "I'm not sure what you mean, Linda. We had our differences, but—" Ethan started, but I wasn't having any of it. "Differences? Is that what you call it?" "I call it emotional abuse. You constantly underestimated me, trying to crush my spirit. But I'm Linda with that. I deserve better," I declared firmly. "Please, I'm sorry for everything. I'm in a tough spot right now, and I thought maybe you could help me out." Ethan's voice trailed off again, his desperation palpable. "It's ironic, Ethan. You agreed to the prenup, and yet now you're here begging and pleading," I pointed out, unmoved by his plea. "I didn't fully understand what I was signing at the time. I just knew I loved you," Ethan tried to explain. "Stop pretending, Ethan. You probably expected me to change my mind," I replied sharply, my tone cutting through any remaining pretense. "Please, just listen to me," Ethan pleaded once more. "I'm telling you this for the last time. If you ever try to reach out to me again, I will take legal action and get a restraining order against you. Is that clear?" I warned him sternly. "But Linda," Ethan tried to protest. "No, Ethan, it's over. Goodbye," I stated firmly, ending the call and immediately deleting his number from my contacts. With that, I was finally free from the grip of both Ethan and Kathleen, ready to move forward with my life unencumbered by their toxic influence. As I sat quietly reflecting on the path I'd traveled since the end of my turbulent marriage, a deep sense of contentment washed over me. I was in a far better place, both mentally and emotionally, feeling as if a heavy weight had been lifted off my shoulders, allowing me to breathe freely again. Life had certainly taken some unexpected turns, but I found myself reveling in the simple pleasures it now offered. Embracing my newfound freedom, I ventured back into the dating world, meeting new people and enjoying the thrill of potential romantic connections. This journey became an important chapter in my life, teaching me to value myself and never settle for anything less than the love and respect I deserved. Amidst the excitement of new relationships, I found strength and empowerment in sharing my story with others. The challenges I faced during my marriage inspired me to write a memoir, documenting the obstacles I overcame. This book not only became a symbol of my inner strength, but also offered hope to others who might be facing similar hardships. Meanwhile, the bitterness of my ex-husband and mother-in-law was hard to ignore. They seemed envious as they watched my success and happiness flourish. They had underestimated my resilience, and now they were facing the consequences of their actions. It was a satisfying reversal of fortune. Although I had moved away from their toxic influence, they still attempted to tarnish my reputation. This phase of my life, though filled with ups and downs, underscored the power of resilience and the importance of forging ahead in pursuit of happiness and authenticity. Each step forward marked not just recovery from past pains, but a celebration of newfound independence. Despite the negative actions of Kathleen and Ethan trying to undermine my reputation, I was resolved not to let their hostility deter me. Their continual attempts to belittle me only reinforced my resolve to maintain my dignity and pursue legal avenues to counter their defamatory remarks. I was empowered by the newfound inner strength I discovered during these challenges, and I was thankful for the steadfast support of my friends and family. Their presence was a constant source of motivation that encouraged me to keep striving toward my aspirations. Surrounded by this supportive network, I felt inspired to continue overcoming any hurdle. The collapse of my marriage, though devastating, ultimately taught me to appreciate my worth, establish clear boundaries, and relentlessly seek my happiness without feeling remorse. The path was arduous, but it led to a profound sense of self-empowerment and a life that was authentically mine. My journey wasn't solely defined by hardship. It was a narrative of resilience and victory. I overcame the dark moments of my past and moved toward a future filled with hope. With every new chapter I penned, I experienced a revitalized purpose and embraced the joy that had been absent for too long. Each word I wrote was a step towards reclaiming my voice, my strength, and my independence. My aim was not to defeat Kathleen and Ethan, but to rise above them, demonstrating the resilience and integrity that lay within me. Like a phoenix reborn from the ashes, I emerged stronger and more determined. Ready to soar to new heights, I was leaving the pain behind and embracing a promising future.